I was 8 months pregnant, surrounded by balloons, cake, and people I loved. Or so I thought. My husband held my hand. My best friend stood beside me. But one glance, one whisper, one text, and everything shattered. They thought I wouldn't notice, that I was too emotional, too tired, too distracted. But what they didn't realize was I was watching. This is a story of betrayal, silence, and a truth no one believed until it was too late. The baby shower smile. If you had asked me 6 months ago what my life looked like, I would have painted you a picture soaked in pastel tones and happiness. My name is Olivia Carter, 32, graphic designer, wife, and soon-to-be mum. I was living in what I thought was my dream. Suburban home, a baby on the way, a husband, Jake, who made pancakes every Sunday and kissed my forehead every night. And then there was Emily, my best friend since college. We were inseparable. When I found out I was pregnant, she was the first person I called, even before Jake. She cried on the phone, told me I'd be an amazing mum. We started planning the baby shower together. She offered to host. "It's your time to relax," she said. And I believed her. That's the hardest part, maybe, how much I believed them both. The baby shower was perfect. Sunlight spilling through the windows, pink and gold decorations, laughter echoing through Emily's backyard. Everyone from our lives had gathered, old co-workers, neighbors, my mom, Jake's sister, even my Pilates instructor. Jake was glowing. He held my hand like we were teenagers again, kissed my cheek every time someone said how beautiful I looked. I felt lucky. Tired, swollen, but lucky. Until I saw the look. It was small, fleeting. A glance exchanged between Jake and Emily when they thought I wasn't watching. He smiled, not the smile he gave me. Hers was softer, lower. It sat wrong in my chest, like a glass out of place on a neatly set table, but I let it go. Told myself I was just hormonal, that it meant nothing. Then came the text. My phone buzzed while I was in the bathroom, splashing water on my flushed cheeks. My mum had taken over entertaining guests. Jake was outside, helping Emily with the cake. The text was from an unknown number. "They laugh behind your back. They think you'll never know." I froze. My first instinct was spam, but then the second message followed. "Check the guest room. Top drawer." I don't know what possessed me to move, but I did. I crept upstairs while the party continued below. Music, laughter, someone yelling, "She's gonna love the stroller." I opened the guest room door, the one Emily always kept closed. The room was clean, neat, too neat. I opened the top drawer. There were pictures, Jake, Emily, at the beach, in a hotel room, kissing, touching, half-dressed. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the edge of the bed, my hand clutched around the photo, my pulse roaring in my ears. My stomach tightened, not from the baby, but from the weight of betrayal. My world narrowed. 1 second, there were balloons and tiny onesies and raspberry cupcakes. The next, there were 2 people I loved most in the world, destroying me with every secret smile and every hidden moment. But I didn't cry. I stood, I tucked the photos into my diaper bag, and I went back downstairs. I smiled, I laughed. I opened presents and kissed Jake on the cheek when he handed me a glass of sparkling cider, because if they wanted to play pretend, so could I. A game of pretend. When I walked back into the party, no one saw the difference in my smile. That's the thing about being a woman. We learn to smile through pain. We learn to host, to thank, to nod, to pretend. And I pretended beautifully. Jake handed me a cupcake. Emily linked her arm through mine as we opened gifts. I felt the photos in my bag like they were burning holes through the fabric. But I didn't break. That night after we got home, Jake helped me out of my shoes. He kissed my belly and whispered, "I can't wait to meet her." I almost laughed. He made tea. We watched a movie. He wrapped an arm around my shoulder like nothing had changed. But everything had. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in the dark. Every detail replayed like a horror film. The hotel room, his hands on her waist, her eyes half closed, like she was exactly where she belonged. I needed answers, but more than that, I needed control. The next morning, I called my lawyer. It wasn't a dramatic move, no threats, no shouting, just quiet questions. What would custody look like if I left now? Could I keep the house? What proof did I need? He told me everything I needed to know, and then I started planning. Emily called later that day. She wanted to check in. I almost asked her if that's what she did with my husband after he left the house, but I bit my tongue. "Everything okay?" she asked sweetly. "You seemed a little off at the end of the party." I smiled through the phone. "Just tired," I said. "You know how it is." She laughed, that fake, high-pitched laugh she used when she was hiding something. I could hear Jake's voice in the background, faint but unmistakable. She was with him, again. I knew I couldn't explode, not yet. So instead, I played the long game. Over the next 2 weeks, I became the perfect wife again. I kissed Jake good morning. I let Emily come over and help with the nursery. I even let them paint the walls together, soft lavender with tiny gold stars. Jake said it reminded him of the night we found out we were pregnant. I almost threw up, but every smile, every laugh, every touch, I memorized it, because my plan was simple. They would think I didn't know. And then, when they least expected it, I would show them I knew everything. On a Thursday morning, I left the house early and drove across town to the hotel in the photos. The receptionist was hesitant at first, but I had enough charm and enough of a belly to get what I needed. Fake sympathy is a powerful weapon. Yes, the man in the photo had stayed here. Yes, the woman matched the description. Yes, it was under Jake's name. And yes, there were multiple stays. That night, when Jake kissed me goodnight, I almost flinched, but I smiled, closed my eyes, waited. The next day, I made a call to Emily, told her I needed help organizing a small dinner, a thank you for friends before the baby arrived. "Just a few of us," I said. "You'll help me, right?" "Of course," she chirped. "Anything for you, Liv?" "Oh, I bet." The night of the dinner, I set the table myself. Candles, soft lighting. I wore the dress Jake loved, the one that hugged my bump and made me look like the perfect glowing wife. Emily arrived first. She brought wine, even though she knew I couldn't drink. For everyone else, she winked. Jake came soon after, arms full of takeout from our favorite restaurant. They laughed, they poured wine, they toasted me. I waited. Then I stood. "I just want to say thank you," I began, raising my glass of sparkling juice. "You've both been so incredible during this pregnancy. I couldn't have done it without you." Emily beamed. Jake reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "And," I said, voice calm, "I want to thank you for teaching me something important about trust, betrayal, and how love sometimes wears masks." They froze. I turned to Jake. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? That I was too tired? Too busy growing a child to notice you sneaking off to hotels?" Emily's face drained of color. I reached into the sideboard and pulled out an envelope. "Here," I said, placing it on the table. "Photos, reservations, texts, the full story." Jake opened it. Emily stood paralyzed, lips parted. "You were my best friend," I told her, the words shaking now. "You were supposed to protect me, not this." She stepped forward. "Olivia, wait." "No," I said, stepping back. "I'm not finished." And I wasn't, because what they didn't know was that tonight was only the beginning, when the truth burns. Jake stared at the photos like they were written in a foreign language. His mouth opened slightly, as if he wanted to speak, to deny, to explain, to lie. But the truth was spread out before him, glossy and undeniable. Emily looked like she'd just seen a ghost. "Liv," she whispered, "please, just let us—" "No," I said, "no more pretending." I felt surprisingly calm, not empty, not numb, just done. Something inside me had turned off, like a switch flipped the moment I laid the evidence on the table. There was no space left for confusion or mercy, only clarity. I trusted you, I told Jake, with my body, my heart, my future. And you threw it all away for what? A thrill, a secret game. He rubbed his face, overwhelmed, still not speaking. And you, I turned to Emily, were the one person I thought would never betray me, my sister. You were supposed to love me. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care, not anymore. What were you planning? I asked. To tell me after the baby was born, or were you going to keep sneaking around until I found out on my own? We didn't mean for this to happen, Jake finally said, voice hoarse. I laughed, bitter and sharp. You don't accidentally destroy someone's life. There was a long silence. Jake looked at me. Do you want me to leave? I shook my head. Number, I want you both to leave, now. Emily took a hesitant step toward me. Liv, please just talk to me. I walked to the door and opened it. I did talk, I said. Now it's your turn to listen, from somewhere far away from me and my child. She blinked, stunned. Jake stood up slowly, looking defeated. Neither of them said another word as they walked out. And just like that, they were gone. For the first few days, I cried in silence. There were no angry breakdowns, no broken dishes, no screaming into the void, just quiet, suffocating sadness. Grief, not only for the marriage I lost, but the version of myself that trusted them both so completely. I barely ate, I barely moved. I just stared at the empty nursery, the lavender walls and golden stars, and wondered how I was supposed to bring a child into a world this cruel. Then something shifted. Not suddenly, but steadily. A spark of defiance, a whisper of strength. I made myself get up. I made myself eat. I started journaling again, not for them, not to make sense of what happened, but to remind myself that I still existed, that I wasn't just the betrayed wife. I was Olivia, and I was going to survive this. One afternoon, about a week later, I got a call from Jake. I didn't answer. Then a text from Emily. I'm sorry, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need to say it anyway. I blocked her. Some days, I regretted how coldly I ended things. Other days, it didn't feel cold enough. But the decision had to be clean, for me, for my daughter. I started therapy. I told my family. I asked for help, something I had never been good at. And slowly, things began to feel real again. Then came the second blow. I was in a prenatal checkup. Routine. Nothing seemed wrong. Until the doctor's face changed as she studied the screen. There's something we need to look at closer, she said gently. My stomach dropped. After hours of waiting, tests, whispers outside the door, the truth came crashing down. There was a complication, a serious one. I sat alone in the car, the doctor's words echoing in my head. I was too stunned to cry. My baby, the one I had built every plan around, might not make it. I had lost Jake, I had lost my sister, and now I might lose the only innocent soul I had left. The grief hit me like a wave I couldn't swim through. It pulled me under, dragged me back into the darkness I thought I was rising from. I screamed in that car, cried like I hadn't cried in years, curled up on the passenger seat and begged the universe to please. Just let me have this one thing, but there are no deals with fate. Only time would tell what came next. The cruel silence of hope. The days after the doctor's words were the longest I've ever lived. Every hour felt like a gamble. Every movement in my belly, every absence of one, was a question I didn't know how to answer. I tried to hold on to hope, but it was a slippery thing, fragile and fleeting. I slept in short bursts, cried when I was alone, and whispered promises to a child I hadn't even met yet. I'm still here, I'd murmur, cradling my belly. I'm not giving up on you. The world around me blurred. People came and went. My mother stayed with me for a few days, hovering but kind. Friends texted, Neighbors brought food I didn't touch. I saw pity in every glance, heard the worry behind every "how are you?" And then, on a rainy Thursday morning, I felt it. A sharp pain, sudden, deep. It wasn't normal. I drove myself to the hospital, white-knuckled and whispering that everything would be fine. The same doctor met me there. She already knew my name. They ran tests, hooked me to machines. Voices spoke around me, but I could only hear the beeping. I held my breath as they checked the monitor. And then I saw her face change again. The same face from before. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. Time didn't stop. It shattered. There's no sound in grief that deep. No scream, no sob. Just silence. I stared at the ceiling, hands on my belly that no longer moved. I felt hollow, not just emotionally but physically. A womb meant for life now held death. I don't remember much of what followed, just the cold, the IV drip, the hospital room light flickering above me, nurses with sad eyes. And the moment they let me hold her, she was tiny, still, beautiful in a way that broke my heart open. I named her Grace. And I said goodbye in the same breath I said hello. The funeral was small. I didn't invite Jake. I didn't invite Emily. Just my parents, a few close friends, and the aching emptiness that followed me everywhere now. I stood in front of a coffin no bigger than a box of shoes, trying to understand how the world kept turning, how birds still sang, how the sun dared to shine. They said things like, "She's in a better place," and "You're so strong." But I didn't feel strong. I felt cursed, betrayed, and utterly alone. Weeks passed, and I stopped pretending. I quit my job. I let the plants in the window die. I turned off my phone and stayed in bed until noon. Showers became optional. Food was mechanical. Life, if you could call it that, became a quiet, unspoken war between breathing and breaking. And then one night, there was a knock at my door. I almost didn't open it, but something told me to move. I swung the door open and there he was. Jake, holding a bouquet of white lilies. He looked awful, pale, thinner, eyes red. "Go away," I said. "Please," he begged. "Just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." I wanted to slam the door. I should have. But I stepped aside. He sat at the edge of the couch like a stranger in his own home. He kept the flowers in his lap, fingers trembling. "I heard," he said finally, "about Grace." I looked away. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to call. I just didn't know if I had the right anymore. "You didn't," I said coldly. "You don't." He nodded, accepted it. That somehow made me angrier. "Why are you here?" "Because I loved her too." His voice cracked. "Even if I didn't deserve her." I clenched my jaw. "You don't get to mourn what you abandoned." "I know," he whispered. We sat in silence, and for a moment it felt like the weight of everything, all the betrayal, the heartbreak, the death, was sitting between us, daring one of us to move first. "I ruined everything," he said. "Yes," I answered. "You did." "I miss her every day." "I never stop missing her." He looked up at me, tears threatening to spill. "Is there anything I can do?" I thought about that for a long time. Finally, I stood. "Leave, and don't come back." As the door shut behind him, I exhaled something I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maybe it was rage, maybe it was grief, maybe it was him. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something else stir in my chest. Not forgiveness, not peace, but the beginning of freedom. The fire after the ashes. In the weeks that followed, the quiet became my companion. It wasn't peaceful, not at first. It was a heavy silence, thick with memories and questions that would never have answers. But slowly, the silence changed. It softened. I started waking up before noon. I opened the curtains. I let the light in, even when it hurt my eyes. I threw away the lilies Jake left on the kitchen counter. They had wilted days ago, much like everything else he ever touched. And then one morning, I found myself standing in front of Grace's tiny urn on the shelf. "I'm still here," I whispered, "and I think I think I'm going to be okay. That was the first time I believed it. Grief doesn't leave, it just changes shape. Some days it arrived like a wave, knocking me flat, stealing my breath. Other days it was a quiet ache, a phantom weight I carried while folding laundry or waiting for tea to steep. But there were moments, unexpected golden moments, where I laughed, with friends, with strangers, even alone. And when I did, I didn't feel guilty anymore, because Grace deserved a mother who could feel joy, not just sorrow. I enrolled in a writing course at the community centre, just something small, a way to put my pain somewhere else, somewhere outside my chest. The instructor was kind, the people were older, no one asked about my past. It was exactly what I needed. There I wrote everything, the betrayal, the affair, the hospital, the loss. But I didn't write Jake's name. I didn't need to, because the story was no longer about him. It was about me. Months passed. I changed the locks. I painted the guest room, the one Emily used to stay in, a soft yellow. I planted lavender on the windowsill. I smiled more. And one evening, as I was walking home from class, the sun setting behind me, I passed a man sitting on a park bench, sketching trees in a worn-out notebook. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Beautiful sky tonight." I smiled back. "It is." And I kept walking. I didn't look back, but I didn't walk faster either. I just let the moment pass, like wind through leaves. I wasn't ready for something new, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. Jake reached out once more. A single envelope. Inside was a letter, long and messy, filled with apologies, regrets, and memories he claimed still haunted him. He ended it with, "If you ever want to talk, I'll be here." I didn't respond. I burned the letter in the fireplace, and as the paper curled and darkened, I felt the final thread between us snap. There would be no more chapters with him, not in my life, not in Grace's memory. It's strange, the way tragedy rewrites everything. It took losing nearly everything to find out who I truly was. Stronger, softer, wiser, not broken, just rebuilt. People say healing is a journey, that it's not linear, they're right. Some days still hurt, but most days don't. And on the days they do, I hold on to the one truth that keeps me standing. I survived. Not because of Jake, not despite him, but without him. This isn't just the story of a betrayal, it's the story of resurrection, of a woman who was buried in lies, grief, and silence, and chose to rise anyway.